Okay, welcome for all the participants who has joined our video conference today. With all due respect, host of the meeting will mute the entire audio during the event. And also we would like to ask your willingness to turn on the video screen during the course of the event, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Okay, Mbak Ratia, we can start the event. Please proceed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bu Lita. Okay, let us begin. Dear all distinguished participants, with all due respect, I would remind host of the meeting will view the entire audio during the event, and we would like to ask for your willingness to turn on the video screen during the course of the event. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we start our agenda today, let us hear the national anthem, Indonesia Raya, please. Okay, good morning from Indonesia for all our honorable guests from Australia, from Department of Education, Skills and Employment or DC, from Australia Embassy in Jakarta, from Tertiary Quality Standards Agency, and some university representatives from Australia. And also our honorable guest from Indonesia, Professor Aris Junaidi, Director of Learning. Professor Aris Junaidi, the Director of Learning and Student Affairs, and also all the representatives from Ministry of Education and Culture, and some university representatives from Indonesia. And also we would like to send our gratitude to all the invited guests who has already attended via video conference or live stream YouTube. The honorable ladies and gentlemen, the coronavirus pandemic has generated changes in teaching learning process in higher education institution and has influenced the interactions between teachers and students. As a consequence of the pandemic, universities were constrained to carrying out the activity with students exclusively online. Therefore, here now, we are going to held Australia-Indonesia virtual online. Therefore, here now we are going to hold in Australia-Indonesia virtual online higher education policy dialogue, developing lecturer skills for online teaching. Today, Thursday, June 17, 2021. To begin this agenda, let us hear an opening remarks from Director of Learning and Student Affairs, Ministry of Education and Culture. To Professor Aris Junaidi, the floor is yours.
So thank you very much and very good morning to all of you, honorable speaker and honorable guests from the Department of Education, Skill and Employment, and also honorable speaker and honorable guests from the Australian Embassy in Jakarta, and honorable keynote speech, and also the expert from the Indonesian University, and also all the participants from the University in Indonesia, and ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sehat, dan salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. First of all, I would like to thank with this Department of Education, Skill and Employment, as well as with the Australian Embassy in Jakarta. We have the Honorable Ms. Dean Ganawe, Ibu Elizabeth Campbell-Downing, Prof. Blake McKimmey, and also Irene Marin, Kelly, and Jessica, and all the distinguished guests from Australia. We are very thankful for this, for the organizing the policy dialogue or seminar series that we always conducted to improving. And also, this is important, very important meeting, especially for the developing lecturer skill for online teaching. As mentioned by the moderator, that we are now on the challenges in the Society 5.0, as well as disruptive technology 4.0 on the 21st century. And also, we are since last year, we've got the pandemic COVID-19. So our new policy at that time, with a letter from the Ministry of Education and Culture, Research and Technology, saying that all the higher education institutions must using the online learning. By that, we improving our SPADA, Indonesia MOOCs, we call a system pembelajaran daring, and all the higher education system in Indonesia, it must be using the online learning. We also last year also having or conducting training for more than 100,000 lecturers in the higher education in Indonesia to have a training and how to prepare the online learning material. So today, with the policy dialogue or seminar series with developing lecturer skill for online teaching is the continuation of our regular training. We do hope that we can learn from the Australian side with the best practice. We know that Australian, most of the universities in Australia is have very good in what we call it the online teaching. So we would like to learn from that, and then learn from the best practice from Australia, and also sharing best practice from Indonesian side through our expert here with already joined with us. So once again, thank you so much with this, and also Australian Embassy, with we are collaborate with a very important webinar series today. So by saying the Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, we declare that the webinar series developing lecturer skill for online teachings is officially open. Once again, thank you so much for all your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Aris Junaidi, for your opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, after we heard the opening remarks from Indonesia, from Professor Aris Junaidi, now we are going to hear an opening remarks from Australia to Miss Elizabeth Capel-Dorning as an Education and Science Counselor, Australian Government Department of Education, Skills and Employment, or DC. The floor is yours, Miss Elizabeth, please.
Thank you so much. Selamat pagi semuanya. Thank you, Pak Aris, as always, for your cooperation and willingness to continue working with us together and creating opportunities to have our universities work together and learn from each other as well. I think when we started this series of webinars some months ago, this series has only strengthened, and we have many hundreds of participants from around Indonesia joining us this morning. So thank you, Pak Aris and your team for that cooperation. Also to the speakers, really interested in hearing about your experiences in lecturer skills. We know that lecturers, that teachers are at the center of the learning journey for our students and are so critical to the delivery of quality, engaging, relevant education. So, it's such an important topic for us all, and I'm sure there's been a lot of changes since the pandemic started, and a lot more colleagues across our higher education sectors that are having to grapple with how to deliver learning in an engaging way throughout this pandemic and its many changes. So I don't want to take up any more time this morning. I just wanted to say welcome on behalf of the Australian government. Thank you to the speakers from both the Australian and Indonesian universities, and thank you very much for everyone who's joining us today. And I will listen intently alongside you, and I'm sure I'll be back a little later on after we've heard from the esteemed speakers. So welcome everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Elizabeth Capel-Dorning, for your kind opening remarks. Okay, before we continue to the next agenda, we would like to take a picture together. We would like to ask for your willingness for all the attendants to turn on the video screen, and I will count to 3. And the committee will take a screenshot of the screen. Thank you. Let us begin. Okay, the committee is ready to take a picture. Let's begin. 1, 2, 3. Okay, once more for the big smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think it's enough. Thank you very much. Okay, I heard something. For all the attendants, if you don't mind to do the video. Okay. Oh, it's all good. Thank you. For the next agenda is a discussions and questions answer sessions, which will be guided by our moderator, Head of the Teaching and Learning Center, Instructor of International Business Management, to Mr. Laki Cahyana Subati. The floor is yours. Sorry, sir, you're still mute your video, please. Your audio. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rasia, for the time, and good morning.
Thank you.
And also good afternoon, audience and speakers. We cannot wait any longer for the topic developing learning skills for online learning. All presenters are ready here, and you may ask questions by typing the questions on the address that I attach in chat box. So while the presenters are giving the materials, you may ask questions. So without waiting any longer, I would like to invite the first two presenters, Professor Blake McKinney and also Dr. Diane Genoe. Professor Blake McKinney is the Director of Teaching Innovation, Faculty of Health Behavior Science, University of Queensland. And Diane is the Academic Lead, Professional Learning and Reward Recognition Institute and Learning Innovation, University of Queensland. The 10 minutes time is yours.
Thank you very much. I'll be starting. I'll just share my screen. So thank you for the invitation to speak today. As the University of Queensland is based on Indigenous lands, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and their custodianship of the lands on which the University of Queensland is located, and I pay my respects to their ancestors and their descendants. I'd also like to acknowledge my esteemed colleagues here in Australia and also in Indonesia. We've been through a lot together in the last year. So today, rather than talk about specific skills that you might need to teach online, I'd like to spend some time reflecting on what we've learned about learning online. Hopefully, by taking a broader perspective, we'll be able to identify a way to enhance our teaching online and on campus when we're able to fully return to on-campus teaching. So we went through a lot in 2020 in Australia. It started with large parts of the country on fire. We saw around the world, there was a spotlight on the ongoing structural and institutional racism and inequality in society, both overseas and also in Australia. We saw this with the Black Lives Matter protests, which highlighted the breakdown of a sense of belonging in one way. But it also showed us the importance of identity and belonging to a group. We witnessed the most bizarre election in a Western democracy, which ended in an attempted coup and highlighted deep divisions within society along political and social economic lines. We had repeated toilet paper shortages here in Australia and examples of other behaviours that suggested people felt the need to be self-reliant, that they had to look out for themselves at the expense of the other people in the community. And perhaps this was not surprising because we were all told to actually keep away from each other via social distancing. All of this was obviously due to or underscored by a global pandemic, which disrupted the social part of our lives and teaching and learning, and changed our teaching from something that looked a little bit like this to something that looked more like this. And that's me in the top left there, looking rather dejected, trying to get students to engage with me online. Now, there was a concerted effort across the sector to try and minimise the negative impact of COVID-19 on the student experience and also on learning. And here at the University of Queensland, we had initiatives to create a virtual village, rapid advice to students about how to cope in the new setting, and also the adoption of new assessment tools and online proctoring. We still saw a range of issues become apparent, however, despite all of these activities and efforts to try and mitigate and protect against the negative effect of what we were experiencing. Students told us that they were thinking more about leaving university study and they were less satisfied in a lot of their courses. They told us that they missed their social connections on campus. The course coordinators told us that it was difficult to get students to engage online and that we saw an increase in withdrawals from courses where students had not attempted any of the assessment. Students told us they were more stressed, and course coordinators told us they had to provide more mental health support. This seemed to be quite a common experience across the sector. We found there was a significant increase in academic integrity cases with students collaborating and colluding on exams and assessment tasks. And we also found that students tended to miss the assessment due dates. They submitted assessment later, and sometimes it was of lower quality. Generally, students said that they felt they were under a very high workload. Now, I would acknowledge the massive amount of work that was directed at tackling these problems throughout 2020. Although the point I'm trying to make is perhaps it would be more effective if we'd attacked them in a more sort of joined up way. We tended to attack each problem and issue in isolation, but I'm hoping to convince you there's something that's connecting all of them. And that thing is social identity. This comes from the social groups that we belong to, like our professional identity, our discipline identity, our cohort identity, course identity, or even our cultural identity. Now, identity is important for positive attitudes about study. It increases commitment and reduces attrition from study. Identity increases satisfaction with courses. It's also why we aspire to commence study and helps us finish our study. This is because social identity is what allows norms and attitudes to influence our behaviour. Identity is also important for student engagement. It increases our willingness to work for the group. It minimises social loafing, and it helps groups function, especially online, and taking part in group work increases student engagement. Identity is also important outside of the domain of learning for mental health, as it satisfies fundamental psychological needs. Students with high levels of identification as a student have less stress because identity allows social support to work. Those with a larger number of group memberships show better adjustment to life transitions, such as commencing study. Identity is also important for academic integrity. We know that acquiring attitudes and behaviours about integrity are essential for assuring academic integrity, and this happens partly through socialisation by academics through a shared identity, as students learn about the norms that guide academic integrity. Now, a shared social identity also increases motivation to learn. It improves communication within a group, and it improves how information is encoded and stored in our minds, and encourages deeper thinking about material as well. And finally, we come to belonging. Now, a sense of belonging is something that has been of keen focus in Australian universities over the last few months. Belonging is part of a shared social identity. It is essential for a sense of belonging. It's something that our students are telling us they're missing out on. I'm hoping that I've convinced you that it's also essential for many of the other things that we care about at university. Identity should really be at the centre of everything we do. I think this is the big lesson of 2020, not the debate about whether the lecture is dead or whether nothing works online. I think that comparison is somewhat distracting. That's the form of our teaching, not the purpose of our teaching. Instead, we should focus on the people involved in the learning. Now, this might not actually be that new of an idea. There's already a body of research about the importance of belonging in the classroom, and people have been building identity in their classes for some time. This is my father. He used to teach illustration at the College of Art here in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. About 35 years ago or so, if I'm being generous with my age, I used to go and sit in his classes. He would run these sessions in the studio, critiquing the student assessment pieces. The whole class would contribute to the feedback and problem solve. They also regularly worked together throughout the year. They were a very tight-knit group with a strong sense of us as a group. Even to this day, many of them still keep in touch. So while a focus on building a sense of identity might not be new, I think we used to often do that accidentally or incidentally when we taught face-to-face. Given the events of the last year that interrupted these incidental opportunities to build identity, perhaps we need to start doing that purposefully to help us achieve our goals in learning and teaching. This might seem somewhat obvious on reflection now that we know how 2020 unfolded, but maybe that just means that hindsight really is 2020.
Thank you, Blake. Now I give the time to Diane to present the presentation. The time is yours, Diane.
Thank you. I'm going to just share my screen now too. I'm hoping that you're able to see my presentation. All good?
Yes.
Thank you, Blake. I'd like to start by beginning with and acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands from which I am joining this meeting, and also to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. And I'd like to thank Blake for introducing the topic of how we've actually been dealing with the situation at UQ. My presentation is going to briefly outline some of the strategies that we've developed to facilitate teachers' learning in order to support them develop some of the capabilities that Blake has identified as the things that we need to do. So we've actually developed a roadmap that identified four main characteristics, four main categories, and tried to understand and bring this all together to kind of connect the dots as Blake was talking about. We learned a lot through the process of the challenges that 2020 and before brought through to us. And so this is our mechanism to try and bring this all together in a way that is connected and joined up. So the four main areas I'm going to take you through briefly now. So the first thing that we worked out is that the UQ teachers is different to what we'd originally anticipated. We've spent most of our time working with novice and inexperienced teachers new to the university or new to teaching at a university. And we rapidly discovered that what we needed to do was expand the brief to include a range of different people. Experienced teachers, award-winning professors like Blake have suddenly were discovering themselves in a different space who are not necessarily having the skills or the capabilities to address the challenges that they were faced with. We also needed to be able to connect with the areas where our industry partners were in. So some of our students work in clinics, some of them work in industry placements, and we needed to be able to bring them up to speed as well. We also realized that this is a curriculum redesign in a lot of cases, and we needed to be able to connect with people in the space. And I think fundamentally there's another whole role of our non-academic teaching support staff that needed to rediscover and relearn a large amount of the work that we were doing. And these people came into different roles and different levels of experiences. So whatever we needed to do, the people who needed to learn, the target audience that we were engaging with, and needed to adapt to different types of experiences and different kinds of roles. So bringing all of that together, we developed something that we call the Teaching Expertise Framework that pulls in what it is that we think and what we believe anybody coming into this space now needs to learn and understand. This gives us an overview of all of the kind of main domains of learning and teaching that we would like people to engage with. And it gives us a sense, in essence, a curriculum, if you will. I think the key thing here, if we look at it, what the Teaching Expertise Framework looks like in a little bit more detail, is that it actually outlines the kinds of categories of professional learning that we would like people to work with. It acknowledges the fact that there's a set of expertise that needs to be developed over time, and that actually has to happen on a continuum. So there'll be people that are coming in new to the process, but they're actually also those that are going to actually be changing and shifting the process. And we have to make sure that any of the professional learning that we work with is able to interact and engage with people at all of those areas. And we need to be able to get them to develop the knowledge, the skills, the values, the experiences through a set of very formalized or informal professional learning activities across the board. We also developed an understanding through the COVID-style learning that we were having with our teachers, is that how people are learning is different as well. The centrally supported activities that we were doing in the past around UQ were not necessarily enough. There was a lot of activity that was happening on a school level and also on a faculty level, where there were trusted colleagues that people could learn from. We had introduced a whole series of new types of learning activities that we wanted people were engaging with. At the time, the What's Working webinars, for example, enabled people to showcase their practices, understand what was actually working, and then share those. And we developed a whole series of different ways of engaging with people. But we also developed a new kind of understanding of who the people that were teaching our teachers. We developed a process of principal practitioners that identified experts in teaching and learning in particular areas, of expertise around teaching and learning, and connected on a much deeper level from the faculties into the central support area, which is where I work. We also worked a lot more closely with the directors of the teaching and learning units, as well as the learning designers that were located out into the faculties. In essence, what we discovered is that people learned a lot better when working with their colleagues. And this is something that we try to pull in a lot closer and a more formalized way about it's supporting people's learning through professional learning pathways. So we've moved on a little bit further now. So what we now have is 6 formalized pathways, one of which is actually captures the learning that we had from the digital uplift that we needed to do as part of the COVID process. This allows us to track and monitor how people are going through the professional learning activities, but it also allows us to actually recognize that the expertise that they're developing over a whole range of different kinds of learning activities in a lot more formalized way that then can be actually created and assessed and badged as micro-credentials that can then actually be stacked up to form a grad cert. So people can formalize their learning that otherwise was happening in an ad hoc manner. And that kind of leads towards our last sort of approach that we've been doing this through is the development and recognition through our Higher Education Academy Fellows. This is an international recognition of expertise that's developed and is assessed and peer-reviewed. It's an accredited scheme that's brought in from an organisation called Advanced HE, which is based in the UK. UQ is an accredited member, and we have our own program now where we accredit and assess and evaluate and peer review the teaching practices of others. We have over 400 fellows now, and the engagement with the fellows is included in our institutional metrics as well as our promotion schedules. So it's encouraging, again, it's recording people's engagement, recording people's expertise, and encouraging further development and further networking, so people actually are learning from each other, which is one of the ways that we're working forward. That's all I really wanted to introduce to you all, and I'm looking forward to continuing the conversations and some of the questions that will be coming through from colleagues later on during the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. 2 things that I stressed out from these first 2 speakers are social identity may impact to the learner's aspects such as motivation and engaging and mental health and the other aspects. And from Diane, I can stress out that when we are going to increase our professionalism as a teacher, we need to consider what the student needs. So the second speaker will be Dr. Kelly Linden. She is Subdean of Learning and Teaching Faculty of Science in Charles Sturt University. Dr. Kelly, the screen is yours.
Thank you for the warm welcome and selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi.
Sorry.
Pagi.
Pagi. So Charles Sturt University is a regional university with 12 teaching campuses across New South Wales. At Charles Sturt, we have approximately 45,000 students who live in all parts of Australia and around the globe. And our mission is to build skills and knowledge in our regions. We offer choice and flexibility to students and work hand in hand with our industries and communities in teaching, research and engagement. Approximately 25,000 of our students choose to study online. So we have been Australia's largest online provider for a long time. We offer courses of study in almost all disciplines, including medicine, education, information technology, health, commerce, and creative arts. And we have just over 2,000 staff with expertise and experience in all aspects of teaching, learning, and research. And as Blake and Deanne have mentioned, that we really needed to upskill in 2020. We find that effective online teaching is about first knowing who your students are, where do they live, what age group, family, work. Relationships really matter, and building a relationship of mutual trust is needed. We have a long history of distance education learning, which has evolved into online learning. Now, online learning is core business at Charles Sturt. Support is crucial for both staff and students. And staff need to feel supported in their teaching process, and students need to feel supported in their learning endeavours. A collegial, supportive, institutional environment helps to build capacity in our teachers and leads to quality outcomes for our students. Approximately 18 months ago, we made changes to how we run professional learning that have resulted in significant increases in attendance, improved academic engagement, with direct impact on the student experience. So in 2020, we ran over 50 evidence-based scholarly collaborative sessions, and some of these were repeat sessions, involving over 4,500 academic attendances. Now, the three take-home messages for this presentation are that professional learning should be timely, it should be collaborative and engaging, and it should be accessible. So we feel that timing is everything. We deliver structured professional learning following the process of teaching in a session of study at the point of need. So, and we have online on-demand resources and material that can be accessed at any time, with short videos, frequently asked questions, how-tos and fact sheets, and also recordings of the full sessions. The timetable of professional learning meets the needs of sessional staff and new academics. Well, it's also well attended by experienced academic staff. And we have an example here from session 1 this year of the time relative to the week of the semester and the sessions that we were running. And so in the lead up to session, to the start of semester, we're running professional learning on assessment items. If any academics were making tweaks to their subject outlines, then we ran a series of Zoom sessions, so starting with the basics and scaffolding into advanced, and then looking at the more specific uses with learning and teaching. We then learn about different audience engagement tools, and I've got some examples coming up. Online scaffolding and feedback of assessment, and this was around the time that assessment items are starting to be due, so it's really timely for academics to be starting to think about how they're going to sort of maximise the feedback from this assessment item. Maximising the use of the learning management system, collaborative online workspaces, and then creating high quality audio and video resources. Now, the second point that I want to make is that the sessions are collaborative and engaging. Professional learning at Charles Sturt is an ongoing and innovative process. We foster a welcoming environment for staff to learn a variety of different tools and techniques and to share their experience and questions. The sessions are a collaboration between divisional and academic staff, and we provide clear expectations for staff of what an online teaching is at Charles Sturt University. I think really importantly, the sessions are well thought out, rehearsed, engaging, and then usually fun. So we really are trying to model best practice. How can we engage our students if we're not engaging our staff in professional learning? Now, each professional learning session involves not just the pedagogy and technology, but modelling of best practice. And expert academics are invited to give a hands-on demonstration of the weekly topic being applied in their subjects. So, for example, we can see here at the top of the screen, there's an example of how H5P has been used to provide a really interactive and visually appealing overview, a weekly overview of a subject. And the second image is just modelling best practice of a welcome message within the subject's LMS site. In the Zoom advanced sessions, academics presented on different innovative ways of setting up their home Zoom rooms. So we can see here we've got the high quality microphone, as Blake has, and a green screen, as well as and sort of some fun uses of green screens. And then we found that a lot of our academics were wanting to use document cameras, and at the time you couldn't actually purchase a document camera, they were sold out everywhere. So found great ways of using a web camera. So this is built on a Lego stand with a cardboard arm. And so it allowed our anatomy lecturers to, in a Zoom lecture, draw in front of students live. And so quite a lot of subjects, particularly in the Faculty of Science, require sort of drawing and sketching, and it allowed that a little bit making the lectures a little bit more interactive. We modelled the online talk and walk, acknowledging that online teaching is different to face-to-face teaching. And there's a wealth of rigorous research already undertaken on how to teach and learn online, and we shared this with our academics. We have regular attendees who now attend for the social aspect. We have experienced academics who proudly list all the sessions that they've attended and changes that they have made to their subject in response to this. And we can see some feedback on the screen here from academics. The first one, big thank you for the Zoom training that you delivered. Articulate, great pace, clear expectations. I'll let you read the rest. But the feedback from academics has been extremely positive. Other academic presenters have showcased great use of other things such as templates within the learning management system. We use Blackboard to create great looking LMS subject sites and also to create interactive activities and providing really nice examples of how they've created these activities within their learning management sites. Attendees have an opportunity to get hands-on with the technology. So we have a few examples here of audience engagement tools. So with Mentimeter, live within the session, there'll be discussions on how academics can use these tools within their own subjects, but also just some sort of fun examples to practice. So in this instance, live within the session, academics were using Mentimeter to indicate how frequently they would use the following tools for communication strategies within their subjects. But then using WooClap, they were also able to have a bit of a play with which was their favourite Sesame Street character. Well, of course, talking about the affordances of using the tools within their own subjects. Another collaborative tool that we've found is quite popular is Jamboard. So in this session, academics were adding some of these post-it notes of their own ideas, and they were grouped for different meals. So it allowed for a really interactive and fun session. We also have here's an example of Padlet, which was a collaborative tool generally. So during the session, academics were encouraged to take a screenshot of themselves and include some text below. So they were using the tool before using it within their subject. Now, the third point that I think has really made our professional learning work over the last 18 months or expand is making sure the sessions are accessible. We've found that when calendar invitations are emailed to academic staff by staff in a leadership role in the faculty, such as a sub-J in learning and teaching or an equivalent, attendance is far greater. And so we find that we have up to 300 participants in the session. Now it's probably more commonly around 100, but they're very, very well attended. Sessions are also published on the Professional Learning newsletter, and recordings are available on a dedicated YouTube channel. So I've just got some screenshots of those here. So by developing lecturer skills for online learning using a support ecosystem approach, we're enabling our academics to provide a high quality online education. And thank you for the opportunity to present today.
Thank you, Kelly, for the inspirations. I really enjoy how you guys using all of the application to engage the student, and thank you for the best practice sharing in Institute University. Okay, now the third speaker is Dr. Jessica Froeli. She is a lecturer in academic development and leadership DVC Education, University of Sydney. Jessica, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. I'll just share my screen. Okay, so I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners on the lands that Sydney University is on. For some context, we've got about 70,000 plus students, around 10,000 staff. We're a research-intensive university, and we've got a really diverse curriculum. So we've got 7 faculties and schools, and we're teaching everything from performance and musicianship and composition through to engineering and computer science and biology. So I'm going to talk to you today about the strategy we used for our professional development and change. So we started off with principles, and I think this feeds off what a few of the other speakers have already talked about today. So we've used that idea of research-led principles. So this idea, I think Blake already spoke about it, about belonging and community. We found that principles were useful for us because it gave us clarity through the noise of online advice. So you may remember in 2020, there was lots of online articles and things out there telling us this is how we should teach online. Broadly, our lecturers often don't have the time to cut through that and really understand that. Principles were also useful for us because they were non-prescriptive. So given our context with such a diversity of different teaching approaches, we didn't want to say this is one size that will fit all, this is one method. But it also gave us that institutional scope and identity. What is our direction as a university? How are we going to approach this? And as I said before, it sort of supports diversity of teaching approaches. So what fostering a sense of belonging and community might look like for a large engineering class will be very different to a small social sciences third year class. So that was really important. Now, in terms of how we've embedded these within our professional learning, we can think of the 7 principles that we used as forming the sort of foundation or the bedrock. They're our stabilizing force. And into that, we imbue everything we do, our professional learning, our resources, our ability to showcase other educators onto those principles. Now, I think one of the key successes in our strategy was in allowing for both a sort of top-down and a bottom-up approach to change. So even though myself and my colleagues in educational innovation, we did all the things you'd expect in here, sort of delivering workshops, we had to allow for feedback from teachers who across different faculties on how they've applied that. What does that look like for them? And that has really been, I think, a key to harnessing educators' agency and their understanding. I don't know how to teach dentistry. I don't know how to teach engineering, but I do have principles that can be of use. So in terms of how this shaped our professional learning, so we have various existing approaches that are already out there. One of our core vehicles was our graduate certificate in educational studies. So we taught this online in 2020 and 2021, but because it's an award-bearing program, it's got fixed learning outcomes and largely fixed assessments. So we can't take that cohort of staff and say, right, we're going to learn something entirely different. We're just going to teach you about how to teach online. However, and I think this is one of the key things I've taken away, we can model good practice. So those 7 principles can shape how we teach. And I think it comes to the model that we found is very useful is show, don't tell, model good practice, provide good experiences. And another take-home message would be that every time we intersect with our educators and staff at our university, we have an opportunity to model the way we understand and experience online learning. We also have, similar to other programs in university, a modular professional learning framework. So this was shifted to online teaching in 2020 and also 2021. And this is comprised of 20 modules, 2 hours each. Now you might think, how do we teach online learning? Let's just create a 21st module that is all about how to teach online. We didn't do that at all. What we did was we embedded our teaching throughout. So when we talked about, you can see we've got inclusivity and diversity, we've got curriculum design, we've got assessment and feedback, these core principles of how to teach and learn on how to teach. We then tweaked that, we adapted it a little bit to say, well, how would you assess online? How might inclusivity and diversity also work online? So I think one thing that we would take home from this is we adapted what we had, and we made it practical. So we found that our staff, they don't have time to learn about educational theory just for the sake of it. So scaffold that learning so that they can solve a problem that they're encountering in the here and now. So we make it very, very practical. In addition to our existing professional learning, we did introduce new things that were directly in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the need to be online. And we started off with Zoom workshops, and these were primarily focused on sort of teaching the basics. And we had a range of workshops that went from I need to learn the basics all the way through to I'm more advanced. But essentially, it's how do I use the tool and the technology to teach? And we didn't just teach which button should you push, but we tried to model good practice. So what are you going to do in a breakout room? How are you going to share your screen? What might you use that for? And then this year, as we've moved towards opening up to allowing our students to return to campus, we've started up new immersive HyFlex workshops. And that approach, and you can see here my colleague, Dr. Esther Kalman, who's a sort of expert in this, running this workshop where we've got staff who are in the room learning face-to-face and staff who are online learning in an online setting. And that experience of HyFlex was really important for them. On this one occasion, though, we didn't just model good practice, which is what we've tried to do throughout. We actually engineered a few negative experiences and asked them to try and fix that. And that was really, I think that was really helpful, because the visceral experience of those things going wrong for you as a learner really makes sure that you're aware of those risks when you go into that. And I think what we took away from these new suite of workshops is not to overlook the basics. So you can have principles and literature and research and pedagogy, but if your staff cannot switch on the car, they can't follow you on that journey. So let them engage with sort of the technical competencies they need. And lastly, and I think this is a really important point, I've got a couple of minutes left, showcasing what people are doing on the ground, what other educators are doing. So we have a Teaching at Sydney blog. This supports staff sharing what they're doing. It gets about 10,000 monthly hits from 166 countries. And this allows staff, if I might be teaching dentistry and I found something has really worked for me, so I can write about that and share that with someone else. And it might be picked up by a colleague in my school, but equally it might go further than that and someone else might pick it up. And I think sharing good practice, leading from the bottom, not just from the top, is really important. We also in 2020 had our teaching symposium, and this was entirely online. And we had over 40 University of Sydney educators sharing what they did as teachers and what worked for them during the pandemic. And we also had a student panel. Interestingly, we had such a large attendance, 485 attendees from 26 institutions. Much larger than we normally see in some of our face-to-face sessions previously. So share, I think a takeaway from this is don't just share with your own staff, look to other institutions in your region. And lastly, on the outcomes, we found this approach led us to high staff engagement, high student satisfaction. So our student satisfaction surveys actually went up instead of down, which is not what we were expecting. And we've also been called on to consult and work with other universities worldwide. And we're always open to further collaboration because we think that this is what has worked best for us. So on that note, what I'm going to do is just in the chat, I've got a few links to share. So I will pop those in there for you now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jessica. I highlight what you say, show, don't tell. Yeah? We need to demonstrate the best practice to the others lecturers, and we need to have showcase so that the others can learn to be more professional. So thank you so much, honored speakers from Australia, for sharing the best practice. Now, audience, we are going to come to the second sessions that our Indonesian fellows is going to present their material as well. So this session will last for 40 minutes, and if audience would like to ask questions, audience can type the questions in the link that we have already provided. So I give the time to Dr. Irena Yolanda Morin. She got the doctoral degree from Twente University, Holland, in instructional strategies. Dr. Morin, Dr. Irena, the time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Luki. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Irena Morin, and try to share my screen. Can you hear me clearly, Pak Luki?
Yes, a little bit. The connection is not a little bit strong enough. So.
Okay. Wait, how about now?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
It's okay. I hope now everyone could see the slides.
We can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to start with a glance on the capabilities required for online teaching. Let's see. Yes, can you still see my slides? Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and the main responsibilities as the lecturer in Indonesia is we have three main responsibilities, main duties: teaching and learning, research, and community service. And to be able to perform these three main responsibilities, we have the 4 basic competencies to get the certificate. And as we can see right here, a requirement to do the job. And we have the other 3 that, if I may say, as the soft skills that complement the hard skill. So this would be the basic skills that are required to do our job as a lecturers. And just as what Pak Blake spoke before, they are already there. We are already acquired it. We just have to do it now with a purpose, right? Okay. And at the moment, well, it's been a year already. Distant education, or I should say emergency remote learning, became ubiquitous as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic during 2020. Because of these circumstances, online teaching and learning had now essential role in higher education. So what skills and capabilities do we need then? Do we have to change a lot? And what should we develop then? And to be able to develop these skills, we must recognize our needs first, right? And it's different, so different from one to another. And let's see now, pedagogy. We have these phases of planning, teaching, learning process, and evaluation of the students. And we also have the evaluation of the whole teaching, learning process. And for the planning, especially, it requires the analysis of the students and also the mastery of educational theory that can help us to design the instructional, especially in online learning. And last year, started on June 2020, the Learning Division of Higher Education in the Ministry held a series of online trainings, or may I say MOC, Massive Online Open Course, in the online learning system of Indonesia, or SPADA, for lecturers all over Indonesia. It was huge and massive because we had like 400,000 lecturers joining within 3 or 4 months. The objective is, it wasn't only for the lecturers to learn more about this pedagogy, planning, process, and evaluation, but also, this is really important, also to provide experience for the lecturers, since we might already aware of that not all lecturers had the experience of online learning before the pandemic. So then we really have to design this course where we chunk the lesson, we try to give a positive experience, and also, like Jessica also spoke before, also negative experience. What about if we give the really heavy loaded task for the lecturers? They will just drop out the course just right away. So at least they know now, what to give and what not to give. And by the way, there are also online lectures on YouTube. So you are more than welcome to check them on SPADA channel, the Indonesian online learning system on YouTube. And we had various topics from the planning, process, evaluation, and the evaluation as a whole. And from all these phases, which one do you think would be the most popular one, and which one was less popular? Okay, hold that thought. Yes, among all of this process of teaching and learning, all these phases, the process has become the most popular one. How to handle the LMS, how to create the interactive materials, how to engage the students. Yes, and the less popular one is the planning, how to design. Well, in my opinion, when the students' conditions are changing, the variety of condition of our students, their learning environment, their well-being, our well-being are different, are changing. And the education perspective have shifted. The source of information is no longer from few sources, but from everywhere, from everyone. So I think if we have to change, we have to change all of the phases, but not all at once, of course, but all of them, from planning, process, and evaluation. We cannot do just changing the process. That we have to realize. So it's a bit sorry. Let's see. These are the channel on YouTube from the Indonesian online learning system, and it's still there. Let's talk about the soft skills. What are the soft skills that we need now? Well, I believe it would not be different, but we do have to explore more. And I have listed at least 5, and you are more than welcome if you wanted to add more. For the planning, for instance, with the advance of technology, the good thing is that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Well, you may if you want to, but we can also be resourceful in collecting, modifying, and preparing the materials and the curriculum. So to be creative is the first one that I think would be important as the soft skills. And then the communication skills, not only talking or presenting online, or how to be explicit in our instruction, or how to write with personal touch, because students love it. And also do our best to listen, to get feedback from the students through the process and from the evaluation. And then the third one would be the digital fluency. This not only, I'm not talking only the digital aspects of the digital fluency, the technical aspect, but more of understanding of our own capability and how far are we willing to learn about the digital skills that we needed. It's not how advanced we are in the digital application, but we have to know what digital application would we need. That's more of the digital fluency that I have in mind. And for the process, maybe the flexibility and being cooperative. Cooperation is between the lecturers. I mean, we have this teamwork now. We're not doing this all by ourselves, right? So it would be good if the lecturers have the teamwork between those who have more experience with digital teaching and those who has less. And the cooperation between lecturers and the students toward learning. And also cooperation between lecturers and the community. Since we're, our students are closer physically to their community than to us, why not pushing them to learn from their community? So being cooperative would be a good soft skills to have these days. And the last one, for all, not just for evaluation and the process and the planning, it's also to become flexible in time management, in being synchronous or asynchronous. It doesn't have to be synchronous all the time. We should have, be more flexible in timing. They could learn, maybe our students will learn best in the afternoon or during the night. We don't know. So also in access to materials, in the form of materials, basically in all aspects. And I think most of all, for the soft skills is to be kind to ourselves, to be kind to others, and to be kind to our students. Well, I think that's all I can say for this points of discussion. And this year, our university also have conference to talk about the lesson learned during this 1-year pandemic, the lesson learned during the our teaching and learning process. And you are welcome to check it out in ICE and welcome to join us. Thank you, Pak Luki. I will.
Thank you. Thank you.
Back to you.
To Irena Maureen, thank you so much. Things that we need to develop to answer the needs of the student. I note creativity, communication, digital fluency, cooperative, and flexibility. So the second speaker that we are going to listen is Dr. Hari Budi Santoso. He is Associate Professor at the Faculty of Computer Science in University Indonesia. He is the head of Digital Library. Dr. Hari, I give the time.
Okay. Thank you so much, Pak Luki. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to express my appreciation to Directorate General of Higher Education, Ministry of Education and Culture, Republic of Indonesia, and also Department of Education, Skills and Employment, the Australian Embassy, Jakarta. Also to honorable speakers, distinguished guests, and also to all participants. I would like to share my slide first. Okay. Can you see the slide, Lucky?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. In this session, I would like to share about faculty development for online education research. And this is still has a strong connection with has just presented by Dr. Irena. And what I would like to share, there are three things. The first one is reflecting the lecturer roles. The second one, promoting online education research as faculty development program. And the last one is sharing the lesson learned. The first thing that I would like to share is how we reflect our role as a lecturer. As we know that lecturer is one of the key stakeholders of higher education institutions, as also mentioned by previous work here by Muzenda, Prasetya, and also Upata. And also in Indonesia, the lecturer have three roles in education, research, and also in community services. But I'd like to emphasize here in two things. The role as a subject matter expert for the development of our field of knowledge. And the second one is as facilitator in the learning process. Two roles that support each other. Okay. In this session, I would like to emphasize more on the research-based online teaching because currently we are in urgent need of research-based or evidence-based teaching, as mentioned by Bransford, Brown, and also Cocking in 2000 through their book entitled How People Learn. They mentioned that there was a transition from learning as a speculation and to the science. And we can look at three important things here. The first one is learning with understanding, and the second one is pre-existing knowledge, and the last one is active learning. Why education research? I quote here from American Educational Research Association. Education research is a specific field of study that examines education and learning processes and the human attribute, interaction, organization, and institution that shape educational outcome. Yeah, and as mentioned by Dr. Irena before, so we have the hard skill and also the soft skills to play our role as a lecturer, and we have also to working on the research side of our role here. So in education research, we embrace the full spectrum of the rigorous methods appropriate to the question being asked, and also drive the development of the new tools and also the method. Okay, I would like to quote here what had been mentioned by Berliner. So hopefully this is not biased here from education perspective, but I think it is important for us as a lecturer to look at this and reflect the perspective of educational research. Yeah, he stated that hard to do science is what the social scientists do, and in particular, we educational researchers do. And if we are talking about educational research, do that. Please do not think that this kind of research only can do by our colleagues with a background from educational field, but also we are from other fields. Yeah, for example, science, technology, engineering, and also mathematics. I would like to share a finding here. Our colleagues, both in Australia and also in Indonesia, we have a data from Schema Go Journal and Country Rank. Yeah, it shows that top 5 countries with the highest publication in educational subject category, including United States, UK, Australia. Yeah, Australia is one of the top 5 countries, and also Canada and China. And how about Indonesia? I think we can look at on the website. So I think we still need to do more on this kind of research. And if we are talking about the age of the education research, of course, it can be traced in general from several publications in the area of education that are classified as old. One of example in engineering field, we have one of conference. So it has, I think, from the information I got that it is 100 old, yes, already. Yeah, so it's quite old. And what we need to reflect also as our role as in a teacher, I pick case study from engineering education. So we have leveling here in terms of the inquiry of our roles. Yeah, the level 1 is the teacher. Yeah, level 1, level 0. Yeah, level 0 is teacher. The level 1 effective teacher, teach using accepted teaching theories and practices. Level 2, scholarly teacher. Yeah, the teacher who are assessing performance and make improvement. And level 3, scholarship of teaching and learning. And level 4, engineering education researcher. Or it depends on your educational background. Yeah. For example, technology, or in social science, etc. So I think this is an important thing to reflect about the level of the way we play our roles as a lecturer. And I have a survey. It has been conducted several years ago. So I have 69 respondents. So you can look at here, 64 lecturers already delivered courses in online learning mode, and 66% of them have delivered courses in online learning mode for more than 3 semesters. But you can look at here, only 28% of the participants already wrote an article about online learning. Yeah. So if you look at here, the 16, although the number is quite low, less than 100, but it represents 10 institutions and also provinces in Indonesia. I also found that the 9 main obstacles in conducting online education research, not aware of research in this area. So this is important to promote what is online education research. And the second one, lack of supporting facilities, data availability issues, lack of technology mastery, as mentioned by our speakers before, limited time, no financial support. It is also interesting here. There is institution policy issues, lack of participation, and also lack of collaborators to do the research. Okay, yeah. How about the coverage area? So you can see here what we can do. The first thing is how to understand how students learn. The second one, development and evaluation of the learning systems. And the third one, the measurement of learning performance or achievement. Also, we can involve our colleagues from different fields of studies in conducting the research. Here, the ecosystem of online education in Indonesia, you can see from the policy, infrastructure, and also the stakeholders. And this is also, I think this is a motivation for all of us, especially in Indonesia. Online and distance education is not new. Yeah, so this is one of the motivations for us. And this is the faculty development at University of Indonesia or University of Indonesia. It's conducted by one directorate in our university. I would like to bring a point to ponder. So based on the opportunity presented, what are our areas of interest and how are we going to use various of knowledge and skills from our different background in online education research. And the last one here, Luki and also the colleague. One, we need to build partnership with secondary schools. The second one, partnership with colleagues from education sciences, also in other disciplines. The third one, building scientific forums or community developments, exploring the use of ICT in learning activities, and also strengthening the connection between research and teaching. So this is just example here, just quick example what we have done. Okay, so this is the collaboration between university and secondary schools. This is from other faculties member from other faculty in our university. And this is the community development. Yeah, we have done a few years ago. Brownback session in our faculty of computer science. And this is community engagement. So we build collaboration with other universities in promoting online learning and exploring the use of ICT in the classroom. So we have published here. Okay, thank you, Pak Luki.
Thank you so much, Pak Hari. I'm sorry that the time is so tight.
Yes.
So thank you. I emphasize that Pak Hari emphasized on the importance of the research. As a professional teacher, we need to do research as well to increase our professionalism. So audience, thank you for staying in this Zoom. There are 472 audience so far in this Zoom, and now we are going to listen to the last presentation, Dr. Yusef Rosmansyah from Institut Teknologi Bandung. Dr. Yusef is Associate Professor on Educational Technology and also Chairman of SCACI Educational Foundation. Dr. Yusef, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you, Pak Luki. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to be here to get to know many experts of educational technology. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, I think Pak Hari.
Can you close the screen, Pak Hari?
Oh, okay, wait.
I will share my screen. Okay, in the meantime, yes, this is my hobby, research and teaching, research on educational technology. I will present one of our current journal paper, basically.
Okay.
So the paper is being revised. In the meantime, okay, I will Oh, sorry. This. Okay. I hope everyone can see our LMS. And we have here our presentation, my presentation. I will start presenting from here. Okay, I think I will use the full screen. Right. I was given the title of Innovative Approaches to Upskilling. So in this 10 minutes, I will try my best to make use of this time effectively. Right. So ITB, starting last year, we embarked on the Education 4.0. So basically, Education 4.0 is a desired approach to learning that aligns itself with the emerging fourth industrial revolution. So basically, we want to provide our students with the knowledge and skills so they can be champions in the fourth industrial revolution. Let's see the important characteristics of Education 4.0. The first one, global citizenship skills and innovation and creativity skills, technology skills, interpersonal skills. This is one of the soft skill. And then personalized and self-paced learning, metacognition, and then accessible and inclusive learning. This is our responsibility as a institution, problem-based and collaborative learning, and then lifelong and student-driven learning. So these are important aspects of Education 4.0 that ITB are trying the best, yeah, to provide their students with. Okay, now about upskilling. I will be quick in this case because upskill just improving the skills of our students, and in this case, our lecturers, our teachers in our university. So I will be quick in here. We have different definitions of upskilling. So we'll formulate the problem. Basically, the learning trends in Education 4.0 includes blended learning, virtual learning, personalized adaptive learning, learning analytics, gamification, microlearning, teaching through audio-visual media, and then other types of learning, problem-based learning, computer-supported collaborative learning, etc. And at the beginning of last year, where we announced this program of Education 4.0, then we were struck by the COVID-19 pandemic. But from the positive point of view, basically the digital transformation needed to achieve these goals actually enhance, actually speed it up. So thanks to the pandemic, in this case, yeah, we just take a positive side of the pandemic. We have the benefit of sudden digital transformation. We plan for 3 years. It happens in 3 months because everyone gets online with whatever available because no other means possible. No offline classes possible. So that is the quickest digital transformation ever. So let's see the universal view of a learning environment. So in this case, our paper is Smart Learning Environment. This is a student before starting the development or studying process, and then after some time, he becomes stronger in physics, in the physical nature, and also the most important thing is smarter, wiser, yeah, and he has more skills. And we have here the layered architecture, layered model of a smart learning environment. From inside, this is derived from different kind of literature, and we use the dynamic modeling approach, yeah, with the model verification and validation step. So from inside, we have standard policy and curriculum that governs the overall philosophy and ideology of the learning. In this case, ITB, of course, will adheres to the national standard, and then also we also adopts international standard. Yeah, for example, from ASEAN or from ABET, something like that. Yeah. According to the Washington Accord. And then it will become curriculum 2019 revised. And for every lecturer, we will have a syllabus. This syllabus will be expressed, represented in domain module in terms of teaching material, including quizzes, including exams. And then the student will have their own record, profile, yeah, during the progress of the learning. And here we have, in outer layer, we have pedagogy module. In this case, when a learning environment is smart, then we have different kinds of intelligent tools, such as based on artificial intelligence or machine learning. So this will help the instructor in giving the best possible way of learning materials to the learner, to the student. Okay, so when there is no such intelligent tools inside, for example, in LMS of a university, then the pedagogy will be taken care of by instructor 100%. But when we have some intelligence in our LMS, in our system, then the instructor will be will work hand in hand with the aid and recommendation from the pedagogy module. Here we have interface module. Usually interface module is in terms of virtual lab or LMS. And in this case, we will use LMS that will harness different kinds of system, yeah, including virtual labs. Then we have virtual supporting resources such as internet, such as virtual lab, yeah, and also different kinds of recording materials, studio, for example, or as simple as laptop or smartphone. Okay, so based on this layered architecture model, then we derive what we call 7 habits of successful blended learning instructor. This is very similar with previous presentation, the 7 principle, but in this case 7 habits, yeah, of successful blended learning instructor. So we have here, based on the layered architecture just now, we have a good and successful blended learning instructor will have standardized quality practice. So he is a standardized quality achiever. He is adaptive to teaching material, so he can be a good developer of teaching material. He is a wise assessor, because we know that during the blended learning, or in particular online learning, how to make a good assessment is quite tricky. It's a different way, different from what we usually have in the traditional classroom. Then this is the most important thing, that he is a pedagogy expert. He knows how to deliver the teaching material, so the entire process of learning is effective, efficient, and engaging. Overall, all the students attended the lecture or the study process will achieve or surpass the learning outcomes. And then technology literate, yeah, master the teaching platform, LMS, for example, and also technology literate on how to make good teaching material, how to make a good delivery of teaching, for example, using different kinds of equipment, yeah, microphone, laptop, various video conferences software, etc. And then lastly, enthusiastic motivator. This is an external factor, yeah, because according to Freud, for example, or in general, people will be very enthusiastic if he or they love the job. Yeah, in this case, but the motivation is very important. Without motivation, all these other factors will not have any effect. Yeah. Okay. I have derived into a practical.
Last minute, Pak.
Okay. I have derived into more detail, but because the time is not allowing to go into more detail, so later the audience can download this one from our LMS, yeah, in Indonesia. So in Bandung we have innovation such as learning management system. We created one. We have several virtual labs in development, and we have workshops and hands-on for lecturer. And in Indonesia, we have Pedagogy derived from our LMS in ITB. And we have done different kinds of socialization and training and workshops throughout last year, yeah, and also this year. Okay, so that's all. So if we look here, I'm presenting from our LMS, and we have also here very similar is a LMS used by Directorate General of Higher Education, the Ministry of Education and Culture and Research. Yeah. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Yusef,
Lucky,
for sharing the importance of not only master in content and pedagogy, but nowadays we need to master as well in technology, especially in digital technology as a professional teachers. So, respectful audience, now we come to the Q&A. There are so many questions that we need to answer, but in my agenda, we only have around 10 minutes. So I would like to choose some questions, and then the speaker can answer the questions. Okay. All right, the first question goes to Professor Blake from Alaya Teknologi Kusuma, Institut Teknologi Bandung. How do you go about consciously building the social identity, both in students and faculty members? Can you give example of the activity? Professor Blake.
Thank you for the question. This is a fantastic question. It's something that there's a little bit of research on, and what we know is you can leverage what we know about how to build identity more generally. And some of that is about creating a shared understanding of what it means to be a student in a particular institution or in a professional, what it means to be a student in a particular profession. And that's about sort of sharing what the values are, the norms, what it means to be in that profession or that university. Also, it's about providing opportunities for students to interact with staff and other students, and making sure that we sort of use a language of we, using an inclusive language rather than perhaps viewing students more as customers or clients or something like that. We need to be speaking in a way that includes them in the groups that we're in as well.
Okay, thank you, Professor Blake. The second question is for Dr. Kelly. And the question is from Stikas Tarumanegara, Ibu Septa Mariana. Ibu Septa asked, I saw in your presentation that we can record our materials in teaching students, but sometimes it is difficult to be applied to average student, especially probably in practical teaching and learning. Yeah? So how we cope with that? Dr. Kelly?
Yeah, that's a very, very difficult question, and I think a problem for everyone, particularly in science or practical subjects. And so if I'm interpreting the question correctly, we can record the sessions, but it's very difficult to teach them live online. Is that correct? Oh yeah, so yeah, I'll go with that. And so I think it's just one of the difficulties, but certainly we've seen some great innovation with sort of home or even office setups of online teaching, where people might have a webcam attached to a poll, for example, so that you can see the whole body. And I know that certainly the physiotherapy lecturers taught in that way. So I feel like part of the great part of a good professional learning session is having time for this discussion, where we can sort of pose our problems and workshop within the group of to what technologies or how you might be able to get around that problem. So I hope I've answered the question correctly there.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, the third question is for Dr. Tien, from Indah Sepwina Putri, Universitas Atmajaya Yogyakarta Teknik Industri. The question is, what are the tips and tricks for creating, still in practicum, yeah? What are the tips and tricks for creating good practicum-based learning during the pandemic? Dr. Tien?
Oh, another good question. I think that what we saw with our colleagues who were trying to navigate all of the practica was around clarity of what the expectations were. So some of the, I don't know whether they are the tips and tricks, other than the fact that we really need to be very clear with industry partners and with the students exactly what is expected from them from the outset, and being very clear about what is available for the students to learn and what it is that they can learn and when they can learn. There were two types of practica that we were noting. One was when the students were going out onto industry placement, and all of that had to transition into a virtual world. And we discovered that for a large part, students that were working in teams were able to actually just continue as normal. There was actually no difference to the way they were doing things. If they were doing practical activities in the labs or simulated labs or clinical workshops or something to that effect, then again, it was around the expectations and making very clear to the students that it was not the same. It was not identical to the experiences of being able to put hands on. For example, one of my colleagues got her students to create models made out of clothes for her physiotherapy activities, but it wasn't exactly the same as her students being able to work with patients and do the kinds of manipulations that they wanted to do. It was a placebo. It was the kinds of things that people could do, but it wasn't the same thing. And I think that's something we've got to really appreciate, that certainly in 2020, we didn't have any choice, but we do need to be very clear about what are the kinds of learning that needs to happen in a face-to-face environment, and what are the kinds of learnings that can actually happen in an online environment. I hope I answered that question correctly.
Thank you, Diane. Now the next questions is for Dr. Jessica, from Wenda Novera, Institut Teknologi Padang. As you mentioned in your presentation, each subject requires different teaching methods, which is also applied to online teaching. I actually was expecting a presentations on an online teaching program showing how to plan, do, evaluate, and actually teaching process for wow. Can you get the questions? This is very long questions. Teaching process for a particular subject.
Oh, okay. I think I can have a go at answering that.
Thank you.
I think the main thing is that at definitely at Sydney University, there are always going to be faculty events and disciplines trying to work it out for themselves that aren't coming from the top centrally. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I think you get the local context thinking about how do I teach for dentistry or nursing or midwifery, and that's important. But then for them to be able to call on top-down support, so to ask the centre to come and facilitate it or present technologies or tools, whatever it is that they need to get them thinking, because a lot of the time they can think about how would I teach this, and it's just about scaffolding and supporting, well, this is a tool that could be used as part of it. But educators, they know their subjects, they know how they want to teach and support learning and assess people, but you might need guidance in how you might do it in a slightly different way. But I don't think we want to take autonomy away from the people who are actually doing that teaching, because they know their subjects, they know their students better than an expert would.
Yes, thank you, Jessica. The last question is for Ibu Irena. How do we maintain those soft skills in order to be ready and meet the need of those skills to adapt with online teachings? Do you have any suggestions, Ibu Irena?
Thank you. Well, it's a very good question. I even think of asking it to public myself, but I'll try to answer. Well, I think we cannot really separate, okay, let's have a soft skill course, or okay, let's have the pedagogical course. No, I think it should be integrated. So while we are having this pedagogical course on how to make interactive online learning, that we can just include in the curriculum that we can, okay, resilience, how to build resilience, how to talk with the student, how to ask them nicely about their day. So when we do it integratively, until now, I can see there are still many workshops or online courses on how to teach online. So it will be very lovely to just include it in the soft skills into this hard skill. I think that might answer it, Pak Luki.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Irena. Well, people, I think this is the last session that I need to handle. And I give the time to Rasia as the Master of Ceremony. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Luki Cahyana Subadi, and all the great speakers for being a great discussions for today's agenda. The honorable ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of the event, Australia-Indonesia Virtual Online Higher Education Policy Dialogue, Developing Lecturer Skills for Online Teaching. For your information, the materials of all the speakers can be downloaded in SPADA Indonesia website. SPADA, I will spell it for you, spada.kemdikbud.go.id. You might find it in Google. Thank you for all speakers and also participants who already attend via video conference or YouTube channel. We hope this meeting will bring the mutual benefits between Indonesia and Australia. Before we close this event, we would like to ask for Miss Elizabeth Campbell-Dorning to give us a remarks. Please, Miss Elizabeth.
Thank you, Ibu, and I will keep my remarks fairly tight, given we've got 1 minute left. Excellent time management to everyone. My sincere thanks to all of the speakers. We've had a really fantastic diversity of perspectives today, through from the initial broad perspective from Professor Blake, through to many examples of current practices in universities, and finishing up with looking forward to Education 4.0 and what the future might bring. I mean, one of my reflections on today's workshop is just the huge amount of work that has gone on and continues to go on in this space. And just like all of our students are different, our teaching staff, our professionals in the higher education sector are different as well, with different skill sets, different learning needs to develop themselves professionally. And it was great to hear examples of what is happening in terms of both those top-down and bottom-up approaches, using the enormous amount of internal expertise that exists, as well as external tools and resources as well. And if I could sort of make one remark, it's to say that there seems to be a huge amount of potential for collaboration, for learning from each other. And I see that that's already going on, especially within Australia, within Indonesia, and hopefully there is more opportunity for collaboration between Australia and Indonesia. And I think that that would help strengthen all of our responses to skilling lecturers and to the future of online learning. So that's really my reflections on today. If I could genuinely extend my thanks to everyone who's given up their time this morning, our honourable speakers, but also all of you that have joined on Zoom and on YouTube today. Fantastic to have such a great response to this topic, which is going to remain a very important topic for all of our institutions going forward. So hopefully this is just one step, and we have many other things to talk about, including more about this topic, I'm sure, into the future. So thank you again to all of you. And with that, we will close the webinar.
Thank you, Ms. Elizabeth Campbell-Dorning. Okay, for all the audience, we hope this meeting gives us a chance to carry out all the suitable strategy for developing lecturer skills for online teaching. Thank you for your attention. Final words I say, have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you. Bye bye.
Thank
you.
Thank
you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. See you.
Bye. See you on the next event.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Baik, Mas Agus, bisa ditutup roomnya. Terima kasih.
Ya, Cindy. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu.